9 out of 10 pastry chefs, it's true. They say this is the best cannabis grow show out there. So who's to argue with the donut makers? Not me. Marge, are you going to argue with the donut makers?
Absolutely not. No.
Right on. Well, thank you everybody for showing up in chat and for joining us today for another live episode of the Best Grow Show. I've got a guest that's familiar to me. She is a returning guest, and actually I have been a guest on shows involving her as well. We have Marge from Bite Me, show about edibles. Please say hello to everybody.
Hi everyone, I'm Marge. Nice to meet y'all.
Yay! And where are you coming from today? Where are you reporting your cannabis wonderfulness?
I am reporting from the metropolis of Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. And most of you are probably like, where the hell is that? But it's very close to Toronto. So if you know where Toronto is, then it's about an hour and a half east of Toronto. Yeah.
Very close to Toronto. Okay, well, that's good because, we do have a good amount of Canadian viewers as well. With all shows, I like to do seed giveaways. And as I'm sure you know, getting them across the border is not easy. So
Right.
Fortunately, I do have a friend, Hillbilly Herb. He has been connecting all the Canadian growers with the giveaways on the show.
Sweet. Yeah.
So yeah, important to have that. We used to call it the Mr. Magpie rule because we wouldn't send it there, but we found a way around. And that's just kind of, the community really kind of coming through and just, again, Bull Cooks finally made it live. Thanks for showing up. But, people with the spirit, just want to see people growing. And that's the best way is to get seeds into people's hands. So we're definitely going to do the bean giveaways again on the show. Matter of fact, we'll probably do one here in a couple minutes. And we're going to have a t-shirt giveaway too. I'm going to try to figure that out. So Living Soils, they are soil that I use. And they sent me out some t-shirts. I was in denial. You know what? I used to be a large, okay? I'm really an XL now, but they sent me some larges, so we're going to have to give those away.
Right.
We're going to have to give those away. But thanks again, everybody joining us here in chat. Salutes, Broken Scepter, Filmy Bowls, Mad Dog, Across the Water, The Evil Genius, Chronic Grows. Ty is growing some of my stuff right now. He's definitely one of those people who can grow it. Modern Genetics, Mr. Magpie. The Magpie rule. This is the man who it was named for. All right. So again, thank you guys for all showing up here, and we can get the show rolling. So first off, please, I want to hear a little bit about what you do behind the scenes. Like, not only are you a grower, not only are you a chef, you do a few different podcasts. Can you maybe tell us about the podcast and where people can find more of you? Because I know they're going to enjoy the show.
Right, of course.
Of course.
You mentioned earlier, a few minutes ago, Bite Me, the show about edibles. That's probably the main place where I hang my hat. And let me just take a drink here.
Yep. And for everybody watching too. Oh, look at that. Look, you are, do that again. I'm a segue queen right there. That's actually a really nice mug.
Yeah.
That's the logo you're looking for. Gosh, that was smooth.
It's not my first rodeo, but so Bite Me, the show about edibles. It's a weekly podcast that I put out. Episodes come out every Thursday, and I'm either walking everyone through a recipe that I've tried in my own home kitchen, an infused recipe, just to be clear, or I am talking to a great guest who happens to be usually another cannabis or edibles expert. So yeah, I'm also a panel member on the High and Homegrown show as well, because that's a lot of fun too.
That is a fun place too. A lot of personalities, and it's fun to see everybody bounce off of each other. With the edibles podcast too, I really enjoy that because I come from the generation of just like throwing flour in brownies and then cooking it. You get it out, you got like a stem sticking out of the side, and
Right.
It's come a long ways.
Oh god, edibles have become way more sophisticated, I think, and it's just that more people are talking about what they're doing and learning from each other and all that kind of thing, and honestly, you can still put weed right in your flour and mix it in stuff that works. I've done it. Might taste a little more green than you would like otherwise, but with some things that can work because that greeniness or that green taste might lend itself to whatever it is that you're cooking with.
Yeah.
Like, the flavor
The
profile.
chef, yeah, chef aspect of it.
Yeah, but THC is also fat soluble. So when you put it in like a butter or coconut oil or something like that, then it's probably going to go farther for you anyway. And yeah, you'll just get
Okay.
more out of it. And then you can literally infuse just about anything, like literally just about anything. So the days of the pop brownie, that is so 2004. And now we've moved on to all kinds of other stuff. Yeah.
Well, I remember the first time someone gave me an edible where I did not taste it at all. Like it was like a delicacy. It was like a chocolate. It had like the pistachio paste bottom. It was, oh my God, it was just so amazing. I did not taste the cannabis at all. And that was almost life changing, again, coming from like the grandma brownie,
Right.
the stem
Yeah.
out the side. So it's cool to see what people do, and I definitely want to dive into some of that with you and everybody, watching and in chat. Her links to the podcast, also her website and link tree, are down in the show notes, so at any time you can click on those and connect with her, and learn more about these recipes, because again, it's there's a difference of my recipe versus her recipe, so check it out. But I do want everybody to, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and toss them up in chat. I'll try to kind of like store them for the end, or if it's something that I could sneak in. So if you have some questions on, just edibles or anything you see or we're talking about, please do that. But let's get the conversation started again, because it's kind of the home grow show. So
Right.
we all like to talk about growing and wow, doing that at home. I'm a genius today. Uh, but when did your kind of grow journey start, or what was like the impetus to get started? Was it a health thing, a financial thing, a fun thing? What
I
what
think
made you into it?
Uh, like I a few years ago, it was maybe a fun thing. My partner really he'd always wanted to do this. And so several years ago, we had a pretty big setup. It started out kind of small and then it grew. And, some kids left the house and then their rooms got taken over. And, we did that for a while. Then
Yeah.
legalization happened in Canada. And I don't know. I guess his commitment or desire to continue doing it waned until we decided just to take that whole setup down because it was big and it was way more like it took a lot of time,
Right.
right? Um, so a few years ago, though, I was like, I still want to keep doing it as a hobby. Legally, I can do that. I started out probably more with outdoor growing
Okay.
than indoor because we got rid of a lot of equipment and all that kind of thing. So I was starting from scratch when I started going back to the indoor. And I didn't really want a huge time commitment because I'm busy. I'm running Bite Me the Show about edibles. I'm sometimes helping my daughter at her restaurant. I'm doing high and homegrown, like everybody. I got a lot of shit going on. So I became interested in micro grows because I had some friends that were doing those. And I'm still interested in, trying to play around with growing different strains and using some of that for my own edibles as well, because primarily that's where I was getting the plant material to make my own edibles. So that's kind of where it came from. I was looking to just keep playing around with it because it's such a fascinating plant. And yeah, it's been interesting for sure.
That's it's kind of a cool journey too. Kind of going big and going hard and realizing what an actual commitment that is.
Right.
Especially with the larger harvests, and then to going outdoors, which in my opinion is night and day from growing indoors.
Right.
It's same plant, whole different set of rules.
Right.
And then to the micro grow. And I think the micro grow is something that probably resonates a lot with the people, watching or listening. I personally like to grow smaller plants, like more plants, but smaller instead of bigger plants, because I like variety.
Mhm.
But when you say micro grow, what does that kind of mean to you, or how did you set up like your micro grow?
Typically, I would say like a microgrow is like a little pot and then it has one big cola on it in the
Okay.
end. And they're usually pretty small, like you said, but I've seen people grow like some pretty, I'd say almost 1 ounce colas on their one plant, on one little plant, right? And it's pretty much just the one cola. There's not a lot in the way of fan leaves or anything like that. So you're maximizing your space, I guess. Um, and so I've seen some beautiful ones. I've grown a few. This current one, I don't even know if it qualifies a micro grow because it's stretched up so much, but this was something I was trying that I'd never done before. So, when you're trying something new, despite the fact that I have access to all kinds of amazing growers in my life who've been trying to help me, somehow I've just managed to not have it turn out the way I wanted. But, at the end, that's the way it goes. And you learn from your mistakes too. It definitely had some things where I'm like, would I do it that way the next time? Maybe not, but yeah.
That's part of the process, and that's a fun stage to kind of be in. Is like when you have enough, in reserve to where you can experiment, you can do a few things that you're like, this might ruin it all. This might decrease my yield, or I might discover something rad. So
yeah, and I am fortunate. Like I said, I'm in Canada, so it's legal where I am. If I really fuck up bad, I can go to a dispensary or to the reserve, or I have, friends with weed or a friend indeed, and I have a few of those, or, I'm never really without. So life is
so always good backup to have. And I see some of the fellow smart growers in here. I see your Temple grower and Green Beard coming over to join the conversation today.
Are they there?
Guys.
Of course.
Yep.
Homies.
a little bit of the high on the home grow crew. And see Filmy Bowls jumping over here too. So.
Oh yeah, I know Filmy Bowls too. Yeah.
Yes, coming
I know, I recognize quite a few of these names. So thanks for the support, everybody who's coming out today.
Yeah. Always good people in the chat too. And it's, again, chat makes this a lively show.
Right.
And that should be my cue. I'll figure out how to segue to give away some beans first. But I wanted to kind of finish that thought though. We're talking about the micro grow. We're talking about just growing, one cola, shorter plant, but one cola. To get that, are you trimming some of the bottom branches off?
Yeah, I have sort of done some trimming, and it's also about the light cycle too, right? Like you started out right away pretty much on a 12-12 light cycle right from the very beginning. So it's not really like it's not vegging a whole lot. It's because it'll start going to flower a lot faster than it would otherwise. So I think it's a shorter grow period as well, which makes that kind of interesting too, because you can maybe experiment with more cultivars. I know some people like that because when they're growing, they can see if they like it before committing a whole tent to it, or an outdoor grow or guerrilla grow, whatever the case might be. But be like, do I even want to try this out on a bigger scale? If you're not sure, do a micro grow. And a lot of people I know have like stuck them in the corner of a tent or something like that as well. There's lots of different ways you can sneak them in different spots so you can try something different out too.
And that's a true gem. Sometimes going with a quicker initial flowering cycle to figure out if you like it. Yeah, to see if you want to throw it in that other tent where you do the fewer plants but larger plants.
Right.
And God, that's a really good tip because that's a good use of your time.
Right.
And it takes up, smaller space in the tent. You can fit more in there when you're starting out 12 to 12. And that also almost reminds me of like autoflowers and why I think, all autoflowers look so freaking amazing on like Instagram or wherever, because they're just like this one big cola. And that's like a signature trait of autoflowers that sometimes I'm like, I get envious. But to that point is they start flowering very early. So if you took a regular photo period and did something like you're suggesting, there's not time for that out branching. It's all just, I'm gonna bud.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So that's good. Do you ever, I don't know what your climate is like where you're at, but do you ever run into like mold issues or humidity issues with like the larger buds? Is that a concern?
I have before, not so much with the micro grows that I've been doing, but yes. In fact, I'm trying to think 2 summers ago in the outdoor, I had some mildew issues because it was a wet summer. Right. And our outdoor season's relatively short. I like to do autoflowers for outdoor because I'm in Canada and our weather sucks like 6 months of the year. So we're getting into some pretty great weather right now, but a lot of the time the weather is not nice. And so you can't really push anything, I feel like, it's hard to push anything past September because it's just going to get too cold. You're getting into frost season and you're risking killing stuff all after a whole long summer. Like that's the last thing you want, right? So autoflowers are great for our climate because they do have that like shorter flowering period. So
and that's where I'm at too. If I were to grow outdoors, it would have to be that, because August, September, we get the rains, we get the cooler weather. I'm on the beach, so we get that fog, and it sounds non-harmful, but when you have moist air, fog clouds literally hanging at the canopy level, not conducive to healthy buds.
When you mentioned that too, like when we were growing before on the larger scale, there were a few times we ran into like mold and mildew issues. And it's unfortunate because it often happens in those big, like Instagram worthy cola, those big colas that everyone's just like, oh, those are so amazing. They're like as big as my arm or whatever. And then you're like, those are the ones that go mildewy though. So they can look fantastic, but not always ideal. But I feel like with the micros, maybe because my own personal setup is small and, I don't have like 1,000 of them. I have usually 1 or 2 going at a time sometimes because I have a very small setup. Hasn't really been an issue to date. Knock on wood.
Right. That's good. And, again, that is one thing that I love about the indoor growing is you do get a controlled environment. Even, sparse buds versus fat buds, you still need to move airflow. You still need to watch the spikes in humidity, but I appreciate the control.
Right. Yeah.
Well, real quick, I want to give away some seeds here before we carry on to the next task. So I'm going to say this is for US only. No, the magpie rule is in effect right now, but this is for US only. And everybody in chat, we are going to be giving away, let me pull this up, because we've been doing the mirror seeds giveaways recently, and that is thanks to Cav Bar Jones. He has been facilitating that, but this week they're out of seeds. They're in between runs right now, so Mirror Seeds didn't have anything, but he did line up another friend of his. Bill is the name I'll use, but it's from Motor City Fur Genetics, and it's out of Michigan. And if anybody's run their gear or is familiar with them, please let us know in the chat. I am not yet, but that is what we will be giving away for the first drawing of the day. Dad's Tent, absolutely. Cambar is a legend. Yes, he's the one who is behind hooking us all up with the mirror seeds each week. So real quick, I am going to share a screen. Everybody in chat, go ahead and type no mold into the chat.
That's right. No mold, no more.
No mold, no more. And I'm going to let this run for a little bit. And again, this is US only, so please do that. I'm going to try to find like a cool camera view that makes us like, oh, no, see, where's Marge? Marge is the star of the show. Come on now. That's what can I do? Well, I think this is the best we have for now.
That works. Right. It works.
Well, we'll work with it. Oh boy, I've never done this before. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so when you did decide to, switch in and maybe, you did the big grow for a while, but then you wanted to kind of do something more small, something more manageable, more personal for your consumption. What type of medium did you choose, and like what kind of nutrients did you go? Well, actually, I'm skipping ahead here. Like, what kind of considerations went through your head when you were starting this smaller micro grow and rebuying some of the equipment? Because you're already familiar with what it kind of needs, but now you had the chance to really be like, okay, only necessity and quality first.
Right. I think what I first did was I did have a little light that was left over that we kept, because we did keep some things. So there was a couple of things that I still had left over that had been in storage for a bit. So I had some stuff, but I decided to try soil instead. And then I think it was just for the convenience and the ease of using soil, because I was using Temple Growers. I don't know if he's still in the chat somewhere, but I was using Temple Growers Super Soil Recipe.
Okay.
And that was great because I didn't really add too much in the way of amendments, like amendments as in nutrients, like salt-based nutrients or anything like that. So it just kept it super simple. It was like
Yeah.
you water it and then you harvest it kind of thing. And keeping it really simple was important to me because there wasn't really anybody either who was like, if I go away for a weekend or something, there wasn't really anybody who was going to
Mhm.
necessarily care about them enough to make sure they got watered or anything.
I know
So,
that one.
I
Damn
was
it.
kind of on my own for that because when we had the much larger setup, suddenly if you want to go away for a weekend, you're like, well, like that becomes a consideration. But when
Yeah.
it's smaller, it's not as difficult. I do have a couple people that I can ask, be like, can you make sure these get watered or whatever? But
Mhm.
so that was basically the soil because I also like the idea of using like super soil. It just seemed environmentally friendly. I have a backyard composter that I'm taking some of my, the compost from and makes me feel a little bit like a mad scientist. But this particular grow, I decided to try cocoa for the first time. And so
Okay.
that's been different. Uh, very
Yeah.
different.
That
Yeah,
that is different, and I remember because I started out kind of similar. I went with soil. I went with kind of what I knew and what I had seen. It was a fox farm, the ocean forest. It works. That's why you see it everywhere. But
right,
that's what I started with, and then when I went to cocoa, um, I had to make some adjustments. Like watering frequency was one of them, and one of them that I didn't catch on to when I switched back for a while is I had adjusted the pH of my water for cocoa, which is typically lower than you feed soil. And when I had switched back to soil, I kept feeding it the wrong pH
right.
until finally, like my plants, I'm like, you're telling me something here, but what is it?
Yeah,
And then oddly enough, I was watching Danny Danko's. It was at that time it was called Free Weed Podcast.
right.
It's another excellent podcast for new growers. I had been growing for a long time at this point. Still listen to the show. He did a segment about pH for soil and cocoa, and I'm just like, oh my god, are you serious?
I thought
That's
you were
what
reading
I've been
it.
doing
Right.
this
Yeah.
whole time.
But that's such an easy thing to fix at least,
Yes.
so there is that, but yeah. It sounds like you had that epiphany after the soil grow was over,
Yeah,
which is pretty
yeah, yeah. We're
yeah,
just
there, but yeah.
it's funny how sometimes the little details, can make a change. But what are maybe some of the differences that you've had to change or that you've noticed between soil to cocoa?
Well, everyone keeps saying how easy cocoa is and how much you're gonna like it and all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. I
You're like, not so much.
yeah, I mean, I would try it again just
Mhm.
because I would like to actually have it work like the
Right.
way it should, because so many people do say such good things about it, and
Mhm.
also that you can fix problems faster, though not that that's been my experience this particular time, but
Right.
it's just like you said, the frequency and then having to like use all the nutrients, which was also new, and then you're trying to get those dialed in, then you gotta use equipment, and then you gotta figure out like I have to water it, and then my setup is so small, I have to like drain the water into another jar so that I can like measure the runoff
Right.
and all that kind of thing. So it's been a definitely a learning curve. And I
Mhm.
have had some really great people helping me out with that. I'm not sure all their advice has necessarily worked, but that's definitely has nothing to do with their knowledge and everything to do with what I'm doing. So, yeah.
I can just hear Mackie now. You just add the nutrients. You
Yeah,
just get the
I
nutrients.
know. I actually had a friend, I don't know if he's in the chat. I saw him earlier, Twisted. He sent me a whole like a very detailed thing on like on cocoa grows. And I'm just not sure I ever quite have figured it out. But you know, there's a couple of things I'm like, yeah, I think maybe I need it. Like I have a trimeter to measure like the nutrients and the
Okay.
uh the pH, all that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Um and I feel like it might need to be recalibrated, which
That's
is
good
something I
to
haven't
do.
done, which is probably really important. But I would have to buy like the stuff and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm like, at this stage, there's really no point. So I'm just gonna keep
Right.
doing what I'm doing. So
Right. Get through this grow. And then, a lot
yeah,
of times too, it's a learning process. You're like, okay, well, if I can get this to harvest, then it's a win because I still have some smoke and
right.
I've learned a lesson.
Right.
But that is, cocoa, because it's an inert media, meaning there's no nutrients in there. You have to add everything, which is where, like the A and the B regimens come in. And that's where people do, I've had people are like, oh, it's just like paint by numbers, man. Just follow this, you do that. And I'm like, I wish it were that easy.
That's
For some
bullshit.
people, it is. For some people, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
I mean,
have
when
to
you're
do that.
experienced with it, that makes sense. Like when you've
Yeah,
done it, like, for a bunch of different grows, I
like
can
we are
see
with
how,
soil. Yeah.
yeah, I can see how it's quite simple, but at my stage, I'm still figuring a lot of stuff out. So
Yeah.
paint by numbers, maybe one day, just not today.
Right. And that's, that is kind of, excuse me, that is kind of a fun thing about growing, again, because all you did was switch the thing that's in your pot, and now you have more stuff to learn. You can still read the plant similarly, but
Right.
it's different. Soil, living soil takes a long time to correct. Regular soil, you can correct it in a few days. Cocoa, you can, immediately make a disaster worse, or make it better, because another thing about cocoa, why you have to add a little bit of extra CalMag, I said CalMag,
Right.
extra CalMag to that, is just because of the electrical bonds, anions, cations, the ion exchange, Ce exchange, cation exchange, and they will bind up certain nutrients. So a lockout often gets misdiagnosed as a deficiency, and when you add more to correct the deficiency, you just make that lockout a lot worse. So that is something that I see people struggle with in cocoa per se, because it's so almost immediate to them.
So they're not using CalMag at all, or just using the wrong too much,
Or they are using, yes, you should use extra CalMag in cocoa compared to like a soil, just because of the cation exchange
right.
and how it works within the soil, or the structure of the cocoa. So yes, you will need a little bit extra. And another thing that could throw people off, is when you get cocoa, especially the bricks. I try to discourage people away from the bricks
Uh,
these days. Like, there's no reason to buy the bricks anymore.
right.
But pH, pH your cocoa, like, check what it is before you plant into it, because some come kind of salty, some come with a high pH. And if you've just been doing soil, you're just gonna, take it out of the bag, put it in the pot, and it's good to go. A lot of cocoa is good to go, but don't count on it. So check that before you plant, because that, again, you could be unwittingly hurting yourself from the start.
And it's interesting that you say that, because that is exactly what I used, was the bricks.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I think I did pH it, because I had to like rinse them, and you have to get them like out of brick form and all
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I don't, for anybody trying that out, I wouldn't do bricks again either. I just had some. So I was like, oh, I have these bricks here. It was
Right.
used for some other kind of growing project.
I've done the
And
same. I've got this brick. I might as well plant in it,
yeah,
do
and I was just
something.
like, I might as
Mm.
well try it out. How hard can it be? And then, well, it was different.
Right. It is too. And did you add any perlite or pumice or anything as kind of like an aeration in there?
No, no,
Okay. Because that's
no.
another thing I noticed too with the brick. When I was doing cocoa, there was a company, it was a 70-30 blend. So 70% cocoa, 30% perlite. Seemed to work good for me. Not gonna reuse it because cocoa compacts a bit more, so it's
Right.
harder over time for the air to get to the roots. But yeah, for the initial runs, the 30 or 70-30
And is that
works
just
for
like
me.
a bag of cocoa that you would buy as opposed to the condensed bricks?
Yep.
Yeah, I would
Yep.
definitely do that again. But my only issue is I have like another, I don't know, there's like 8 more bricks sitting sitting in a closet somewhere that
Oh no.
I have to use them. But maybe it's not worth the aggravation.
Yeah, not worth the headache. Or, maybe do a side by side. Again, take a clone of whatever you're working with, and then
Yeah.
do a little soil. And you're going to have to mix nutrients twice, one for each. But that might be a fun, just again, I like the A and B experiment. It's like, why is this one going so good and this one went to shit?
Right.
Why?
Yeah. A/B testing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's I'm gonna bring up no mold here. No mold. Bring no mold back up here. We've got 52 entries so far. Again, USA only. I'm gonna hit the button here and just confirm, winner, that you're in chat and you're in the US. and we will be sending out the new seed company Kabar has got us for this week. The Motor City Fur Genetics out of Michigan. Go to I'm Brad. Holy cow. That is freaking awesome. Congratulations, I'm Brad, who is actually going to get a big shout out on this show. And this is not this was not fixed, folks. But I'm stoked you won, Brad, because I'm Brad follows a pretty popular comedian. And well, here, I'm just going to play the video clip. So I'll let you guys figure it out.
Like, hey man, I should get a heads up before y'all read.
Yeah.
I'm Brad. That's the name. Dusty stole his look from Chad Westport.
All right. Well,
Do you know him, Dusty?
I don't know him.
You got a pretty similar vibe.
Yeah, we got a similar vibe. I have a video on YouTube that I did of all the people that people say I look like. I don't know if I included Chad Westport.
Is there one that's the most common?
Hardy.
Yeah. Well, Hardy, not so much. People say David Cross all the time.
Yeah.
They say David Cross with
Forrest Gump with long
Forrest
hair.
Gump. I get
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
I don't see David Cross.
But they always say that. David Cross.
They say
Maybe-
David Cross in disguise.
It's
Yeah.
like your face.
I actually get Jimmy Fallon in disguise a lot.
Yeah.
I get,
Well, you gave yourself that one.
yeah.
like Brad Pitt
Yeah.
on
I do that.
vacation.
I'm
Yeah.
just going through.
So congratulations, I'm Brad. And thanks, guys. He's in chat. Definitely hit me up through my IG. I'll get your address and I will make sure to get those beans out from Cav Bar. But thanks a lot, man. And thanks for sending that email in to Dusty Slay. Everybody, if you know who Dusty Slay is, go to his Instagram and be like, why do you look like Chad Westport so much?
That is hilarious. He does look like a bit like David Cross too. But that Nate, I can't remember how you say his last name. He's a very funny comedian too.
Nate Lance.
Yeah.
Or that was the name of the show. Yeah.
But Nate, I can't remember his last name. But he's very funny. He is very funny. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that was awesome. He's like, dude, you should watch this show. Check out this episode. And I'm watching it. I'm like, what the? That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. All right, so we've got one giveaway down. We've everybody reach out to Dusty Slay again. I'm gonna pull up his Instagram and put it in the notes there and be like, why do you look like Chad Westport? But be nice. Don't be mean to the poor man. So we'll see if I make it to a Joe Rogan level or something soon. Who knows? He might watch this clip and clip it and put it on his channel. If you do, chadwestport.com.
Let's make it go viral, everybody.
There we go. We're gonna make one of them virus videos.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh well, back to the cannabis talk, which
Right.
is why people are tuning in today. You kind of mentioned that you were going with the micro grow. Did you have some like positives or some negatives about that? Like who might do best with like a micro grow? Is it for everybody, or is there a certain group of growers that might enjoy it or benefit the most?
I think it's good for people like who don't have a lot of time, for one, but still want to dabble with growing cannabis. That's a good group. Or for beginners, maybe, although it's a different experience than growing a full plant, but or somebody who has limited space as well. You don't have room for a whole tent or a whole like big setup, but you still want to have a little something going. It's definitely not for somebody who is growing their own smoke and is a heavy smoker, unless you have room for like a bunch of them, like a whole bunch. But I'm not a really heavy smoker myself, so it's not a huge deal. But yeah, it's definitely good for people. Or if you have like space in your tent, again, you want to make use of your like extra space. It's good for that too. So yeah.
That's funny. You mentioned the extra space in the tent, and I have one that I should have culled. It's just not the strongest, but I had space in the tent, and I'm like, well, you could go right here. I have a hard time culling plants, so I leave things that should be killed to grow. Because again, at the end of the day, it will give me some harvest off of it, and I wanted to try it out as something that I hadn't grown out before, so I'm just letting it finish.
And it is great for people who want to experiment. So, I mean, if you're using like a micro grow solely for your own smoke and you're a heavy smoker, it's not ideal. But for everybody else, you can probably find a way to make use of it. So if you're a heavy smoker and you have a tent, you need space to fill, great. Or if you're just wanting to experiment with new cultivars, fantastic. If you're a beginner grower and you want to take a little corner of a little space, then it's great for that too. So, yeah.
And have you found that there's some, particular genetics or maybe breeders that you like that kind of lend themselves to that style of growing? Because like a 16-week, 10-foot tall haze isn't probably your ideal choice for this. What are some of the things that have worked for you or that you prefer?
I feel like I've tried something different every time I've done one. So
cool. That's awesome. Tell us maybe about some of your favorites, and then maybe some that you're like, yeah, not again. I have some that I won't grow again indoors, but if I can go outdoors, absolutely getting planted right away.
Right.
They're just beasts.
Yeah.
They're not good for a tent.
I'm trying to think of all the things I've grown, and sometimes if I don't have them right in front of me, I'm like, I don't remember. But
yeah.
I have gotten quite a few seeds from Temple Grower. I don't know if he's still on the chat or not, but big shout out to him. He does produce quality seeds. So those ones have done really well. And interestingly, I was recently germinating some seeds for my outdoor, and I had some of his and some from a seed bank, and his looked like little swimmers. And the ones from the seed bank had barely sprouted. And I was just like, oh, is this a difference in genetics here? Like, it was kind of interesting because they'd all been started at the exact same time. So I don't know. Genetics? I think so, because he makes some great seeds. So a lot of the ones I've gotten from him, I think I've done some skunks that I really liked.
Nice.
A little more outdoor. I'm trying to remember what I did outdoor last year, but I can't offhand.
That's that is kind of a fun like side by side too, and it'll give you the overall like vigor you can expect from the plant of like how soon does it pop, how long does that tail get, because some of the older seeds they'll just crack and maybe get a little tail, and you plant those, and those are the ones that you're nursing along. You're like, okay, come on, run, you can do it. But when you get that really vigorous tail popping out, you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be a quick veg and a big plant.
Yes. Yeah. And so I've started some double grape auto flowers. What was the other one? Some CBD Charlotte Angel, and I think a Buddha, which is a sativa and probably a long flowering, which may be a mistake, but I'm doing it anyway because I've always wanted to grow it. So there we go.
There you go. And with that style too, you might get a little bit more branching. You might get a little bit more than that singular cola, but really with techniques like bending them over, your low stress training, or even topping if you want to go in there, depending upon the life stage.
Right.
That could be a way to pull it off.
And a lot of these are also, they're going to be for my outdoor grow too. Like I've started them so that I can, get ready for that too. So they're for the outdoor and my little indoor as well, because I can do 4 at my house. And my dad has a place sort of out in the country, very close to me. And he now lets me grow at his place, which is fantastic because all through my high school years, they did not condone my use of cannabis. And
they were aware of it though?
Unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Unfortunately.
It wasn't like I wanted to tell them, because every time I came home and had a snack, my mom would automatically think I was high because I and one of my favorite snacks is peanut butter and honey sandwiches.
Okay, that's good though.
I have to admit that I had one of those before we started this show today. I put some sprouts on it too, just to make it like healthy. And so I would often come home and have that. And like she was right, 75% of the time, but not always. But yeah, then it went legal, and they're like, oh yeah, it's fine now. I'm like, come on. But
yeah, you're like, that's not fair, because you got to be right a lot of the time.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, my dad is in his early 90s. So they grew up in the whole reefer madness era, literally.
Oh, yeah. Hardcore.
And were programmed for most of their life to think that, if I was smoking weed, I was out murdering and sleeping around and doing all the terrible things that people do when they smoke weed. And so I'm not too upset about it, because now he's making up for it. I can grow weed at his house. And
it's always cool to see an older generation maybe not necessarily fully change their position, but at least be open to the conversation, or, let bygones be bygones, right?
Right.
Is Yeah, because that the older generation, um, definitely has that reefer madness built into them.
Yes,
And
for
that's
sure.
where I started out, was with the seniors MMJ network, because I'm like, that's probably the demographic that could benefit the most, that
Yes.
has the least amount of proper education.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and like my dad will never consume cannabis in a traditional way, like smoke a
right.
joint with me or use my dry herb vape or whatever. But he has used topicals and some oils, CBD oils and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I can't. Just the fact that he's even willing to talk about that
Yep.
is pretty amazing, because they were very anti-weed for so long. And the only disadvantage of putting plants out at my dad's house is he has this beautiful property with lots of sun, but he's 92 this year. And I don't want to be like, well, you have to be out there watering every day, Dad. Like,
Yeah, right.
kind of like,
Oy, oy, oy.
what happens out there happens. And I think it was
Yeah.
last summer, there was 4 out there, and I'm talking to him on the phone one day, and he's just like, yeah, one of your plants, it's just got bees all over it. And I was like, oh shit.
Oh no.
It got pollinated. Obviously, I had a male that came up.
Okay. Whoops.
It was
Well,
because I wasn't there all the time to see it, and and he's obviously not going to sex the plant, so it was just, I'll put feminized ones out there. It was a gamble. I did end up with a ton of seeds though, so
that's
total loss. Yeah,
exactly. That's
yeah,
the lemon into lemonade, because you could share
yeah,
those with other people. You actually know that it was a male to female cross. It wasn't like crazy hermaphrodite
yeah,
pollinated everything. And
yeah,
so, yeah,
yeah,
they can definitely be used. And I smiled there, because that kind of mirrors like my dad's relationship with me and cannabis. Like, it was not cool. It was not a good thing. Didn't really talk about it. Older in life now, he knows that he knows what I do and what I'm involved in, and he's okay with that. But he would never, like, I do not ever imagine him smoking. I do
yeah.
not imagine ever him taking an oil or oils. But I went to their house and I saw a topical. It
Right.
was actually the one that I like, but it was a topical that you can only buy at the rec shops. So I'm like, I know my dad's been into a weed store.
Somebody's been shopping for weed.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. I let it slide. I didn't call him out on it, but I was like,
And
that's
honestly, though,
cool.
that
He
is
went
a
in.
big
He went
deal,
in.
because, yeah, like I know when I worked in a dispensary before, that a lot of seniors were pretty intimidated at first to come in to
Oh yeah.
the dispensary, because they're like assuming that it would be, I don't know, like your quintessential
Yo,
stove.
yo, yo, what's up? Smoking blunts, drinking weed.
That's
What's
right.
up?
Yeah, and like recommending like shatter or something, or I don't know, crazy
God.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so many of them were really intimidated. And then when they come in and realize it's not like that, and there's so many products for people who are kind of curious or just
Yeah.
looking for the topicals and things, then they became a lot more comfortable, and you would have them coming back all the time. So
Good.
yeah, topicals are a great way to get people into it because they're so helpful.
Yep. And that was, working retail, one of the things I really strove on. I think everybody in our shop did a tremendous job on knowing how to talk with, older people, older generations, and get them the right product. So that's huge. And I'm glad to hear that too, because again, that just comes down to education and caring. People who love this plant are going to want people to have success with this plant. They're not just going to be like, yeah, you should probably go for like only the 40% shatter, because that
That's right.
80% is going to be
Let me
too
sell
much.
you a dab rig.
God dang.
Yeah,
Of course, the Golden Girls dab rig, I'd probably be the
right.
second to buy it.
Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say that sometimes seniors are some of my favorite customers, just because they often, if they are in there already, they asked really good questions, and they were very receptive to what you had to say. Whereas some other customers, it was just like, where's the 37% like flour? Because I grew stuff last summer that clocked in at like 45, and like, they tell you all this. I heard all kinds of
Oh
shit.
God, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my
And
God.
they would buy, some of them would buy anything as long as it was the highest THC percentage in the whole store. And
It's
it
like
didn't matter.
$10 dab, $10 a gram. Got to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to be good.
So, I mean, it is what it is, but a lot of the seniors that came in were very receptive to what you had to say. So they were great people to work with.
Yep.
Yeah.
And those are fun. Before we move on, I just want to say my favorite experience was the older couple. The wife was definitely didn't want to be in there. She held her nose the whole time because it stank. And the
Right.
husband, was like bashfully asking a few questions, gave them the best information we could, and they were cute. But on their way out, she looked at her husband. She's like, "You're gonna have to change your shirt before work. You're gonna smell like reefer." It was just
Actually, use the word
cutest
reefer.
thing.
That's too funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just the cutest thing. I'm like, so far from the truth, but you're cute,
Right.
and thanks for coming in because
Yeah.
you broke through that wall. So that's
Yeah.
good. Education breaks through the walls.
It does. Yes.
Yep. And kind of, we were talking about genetics a second ago about, what works for you. Have you, well, actually, no, you kind of did answer this question because, the temple grower, you said, well, my question was, do you notice a big difference in quality between various sources? And, you kind of mentioned temple grower, very vigorous compared to a seed bank you had. So
Mm.
have there been other examples of maybe, just like source or cost tend to correlate to better or worse plants in your experience?
I'm trying to think because I have bought some from the legal dispensaries too, and they seemed like they were all right. One was like the Humboldt Cannabis Company, not Humboldt Cannabis Organization.
Yes,
The
yes.
difference, but I mean, it was an autoflower seed pack that I bought, and it seemed to do pretty well, actually. Sometimes I do think you get what you pay for.
Mhm.
I mean, not entirely. There's probably a lot of hype around certain things, I guess.
Right.
I'm not spending like crazy amounts of money on seeds personally. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well, you should be able, you should be able to get something that you're happy with, something that you want to smoke,
right.
or in your case, use for edibles, which I guess might be a good outlet for some of the stuff that you're like, I mean, I've grown stuff where I'm like, I'm gonna smoke this other stuff, so
Right.
let me find another use for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
how you okay?
Absolutely. Because I would say that edibles is probably, well, it used to be the primary way that I consumed cannabis.
Okay.
It still is my favorite way, to be honest. Sometimes smoking weed still can make me pretty paranoid for whatever reason. I think I've just realized I'm really sensitive to THC.
Okay.
So I keep that in mind, but edibles just has a very different effect on me. So it doesn't really bring up that feeling of paranoia, especially now because I've really dialed in my dose. I know what I'm doing, which helps a lot.
Very.
But yeah, if I grow something, I'm like, yeah, this kind of sucks. Well, I can just decarboxylate it and use it in something tasty that I'm going to eat anyway and enjoy. So yeah.
And on your website, do you have, kind of like directions for someone to, you said, decarboxylate, which if I could play that in Scrabble ever, I'm fucking doing it.
I feel like
But,
a 300-point word probably.
I know, decarboxylate, bitches. No.
Yeah.
But do you have like instructions on how to do that? Maybe why you would do that, and also dosage calculators? Do you
Yes.
have these
I have
resources?
all that stuff. Please check
Okay.
out bitemepodcast.com and you'll find out for yourself. But I've done episodes on decarbing a couple times actually. It was one of the first episodes I did almost 4 years ago. So I have not gone back to listen to it. I'd probably cringe if I did, I'm sure, because it was so long ago. And then I also had Chanel Lindsay, who was the CEO and founder of Ardent Cannabis, who makes that like decarb device.
Mhm.
So we talked a lot about decarbing, obviously, in that episode too. But if you just search decarb or decarboxylation on the site, it brings up some of the recipes because there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. And on the recipes page, there's all kinds of, not all kinds, there's a few different methods you can do, and it's all there. But if you just search it, it should bring up, the recipes, the episodes I've done, that kind of thing.
Okay, good. And do you give us step-by-step? And do you give us step-by-step directions too for the kitchen illiterate?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. For somebody who is unfamiliar with their kitchen, you should be able to accomplish the act of decarbing with my instructions. And if not, if there's anything if somebody goes there and they're like, this isn't clear at all, or this is clear as mud, please let me know. And then I can fix it. But
Yeah, everybody in
Right.
chat too. That totally helps us. Sometimes we think we're making sense and we may
Right.
be taking for granted terminology that we use every day that other people are unfamiliar with.
Right.
Like decarboxylation. If you asked me when I was making those grandma brownies with the weed stem sticking out the side what decarboxylation was, I'd be like, put it in a box? What?
Yeah. Yeah. What's that? Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just skip that. That's extra time. That's not necessary, but it is necessary. So don't skip it. It's always decarb, infuse, cook. Those are the three easy steps.
Decarb, infuse, cook. Okay, I was going to make a acronym out of it, but those initials do not spell something nice.
No, you need more time to work on something like that. It's catchier, but that's a good idea, actually.
You mentioned, you found your proper dosage, and that's important again for inexperienced people. So the older generation, like titration is finding that right dose. How would you suggest somebody go about that? And again, I realize, and I'll just preface this for you, everybody's experience will be different. Everybody's body is different. But in your scenario, how would you approach that to describe titration for people?
That's a really great question. And it's gotten to the point now where I've been doing this long enough that like when you don't know how strong something is, I really don't want to take it. So somebody gave me, or they gave them to my husband and they gave them to me, this like little brownie piece in a foil. And it's still sitting on my counter because I'm like, I have no idea how strong this is. This could be 500 milligrams. It could be 10. Who knows? But I'm not going to gamble anymore because I've done it too many times. And it's when you take too much, it's not good. So that's really important. But you've heard the old adage probably 100 times: start low and go slow.
Yes.
And so you start out with the lowest possible amount. If you have access to a dispensary near you, sometimes just going to a dispensary and buying the lowest dose edibles that you can and starting there and then working your way up and see how you feel. You might buy some some people will be like 5 or 10 milligrams, but for some people, 10 milligrams could be too much. That could give them like panic attacks or something like that. Yeah. So if you can go into a dispensary and buy something that's like 2 milligrams and then work your way up, you might not feel anything, but that's better than feeling everything.
So true.
Anybody who's taken too much knows what I mean by that. So, and then if you can like keep track somehow of what you're testing out on yourself. I do have a journal on Amazon, Bite Me, the Edibles journal, that can help you in that process. Good. You can also use like a note on your phone or a notebook or whatever, because people always think they're going to remember. And they don't. And I know this because I do this all the fucking time.
Yeah, me too.
I know better. I'm like, oh, I'll just remember that. No, you don't. How much did I put in that infusion last time? I didn't write it down. So I don't know. So if you're doing your own edibles and you're starting out that way, making use of like an infusion, like a calculator, is also a good way to start as well. And I know sometimes like the calculators do the math for you, which is good. It's nice to know the math behind it as well, but at least that gives you a sort of a range of where you're at. And so if you calculate it like, oh, this cookie is going to be 30 milligrams and you've never eaten that cookie before, cut it into quarters or something, please, for the love of God.
Yes. Probably the worst stories that I hear is when people have eaten too many edibles. Like it's not smoking, it's not dabbing, it's edibles. When you've taken too many edibles, you'll live.
Yeah.
But those are the worst stories that I've heard, or people's experiences.
100%. Yeah. Because, if you smoke too much weed, you might green out a little bit. You might get really sleepy or whatever. But if you take too many edibles, you're going to feel like the world is ending. Time is slowing down. You're dying. Like all these things. We've heard all those videos, seen those YouTube, things of people calling 911 thinking that time has stopped.
I'm dying.
Yeah. So it's a very different experience. But when you get your dose in, like dial it in, you know where you're at. It's fantastic. But yeah, too much is not a good thing.
Fuck around and find out brownies are my favorite.
Yeah.
Right on, Slayer. Slay on, Slayer.
For some people that works, but I wouldn't recommend that to most.
No, yeah. Well, you mentioned 10 milligrams might be too much for people. And my perfect example is my buddy Jay, who we've smoked together for, God, like over a decade. We smoke tough. When it comes to edibles, like 50 milligrams is where I start to feel it. But if he takes anything more than 5 milligrams, which
Exactly.
is weird, given his like smokable
Right.
history,
Yes.
5 milligrams is like his line. Do
Right.
not take the 10.
And
So
that's the perfect example too, where people come in sometimes when they're new to edibles and they've been smoking for a long time. They're like, I could smoke you under the table. They're doing dabs, they're doing all this stuff. And then they're like, their tolerance for edibles is shit. And I mean, I
yeah.
shouldn't say it's shit. Everybody's just different. It's your biology, right?
Mhm.
But it's just a perfect example that a tolerance to smoking cannabis has nothing to do with your tolerance to eating edibles. So, and don't think that height or weight or gender or any of those things also have anything to do with it. I used to work with this woman who was like 90 pounds soaking wet, and she could probably eat 250 milligrams all day long.
Yeah.
And then have known other people, like you said, your friend Jay, who's like heavy smoker, but 5 milligrams. And he's just like, that's good.
Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's serious.
And you're 50 milligrams. I'm kind of feeling it around 20 to 25, depending on how high I want to be. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a 20 milligram person. So, and ask anybody in the chat and they might have a different answer.
It'll vary, yeah. And I found too, at least for me, it's metabolism
Yes.
that really makes a big difference, because a lot of people will talk about, it'll take an hour, maybe sometimes 2 hours to kick in. Um, years ago, not so much anymore, but I had a much faster metabolism, and I would
Right.
take an edible, and within 10, 15 minutes, I already was on my experience.
Really?
So yeah, that
Wow.
was great. Now it's a little bit delayed, but
A little more
I
normal now.
yeah, I don't take
Yeah.
as many edibles as I could.
Right.
It's different for one, delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, delta 9. That's what we get when we smoke it. When we eat it, that same THC turns into delta 12. I believe it's either 11 or 12,
I thought it
but
was
it's
11, but yeah.
di-
Now I
yeah,
don't know.
I know, right? I just confused
Yeah.
myself. But it's a different form of THC than delta 9. So the high itself is actually chemically
Different.
really different.
Yes.
Um, so that's why maybe it can do that. And okay, not sure here says 11. So I'm going to go with not
Thank you
sure.
for
Delta 11.
confirming.
Yes, I don't have the awesome Google machine in front of me right now.
Right.
It's one of those things, enough to be dangerous. I'm like, is it 11? Is it 12? It's not 9.
Right.
But okay, we've got that going on. And I'm going to do another seed giveaway because we're coming up on the hour. But before I do that, real quick, circle back. You were talking about putting plants outside. Not everything that you have this year is for indoors.
Yeah.
I've heard the term like hardening off, or like getting them used to the sun. Is there a particular process that you do, or does it go from the tent straight outside into the full sunlight for the full day and they're happy? Is there any kind of process of
That's a great question. Usually I do have them under lights, but I don't yet. They have started coming up. And like I'll grow them indoors for a little bit so that they're at least vigorous enough, or like have gotten big enough that they can withstand the outdoors environment
okay?
and all the things that it brings. We do wait in Canada. Typically, the rule of thumb is the May long weekend, which is in a couple weekends. That's usually when you do start your outdoor plants, because the threat of frost has hopefully been eliminated by then, because that's also a thing. If you start too early in outdoors, then you're gonna fuck them up, which you don't want. So yeah.
Yeah, people have that tendency to sorry, just getting out the big bag of prizes here. People have a tendency to sometimes, unless it's, if it's a regular, they'll put it out a little too early and it'll start to flower, and then the light schedule changes and it goes back to veg, and they're like, why does my plant have these funny 3-finger leaves on it?
Yeah. And then
So
tell them sorry. That's never happened to me yet. So hopefully it won't happen this year either. But
again, different ball game. All right, so I'm just gonna blind reach. We're gonna do the Boneyard seed giveaway here. So what pack are we giving away this week? Space Fondue Fire OG times the space cheese from Boneyard Seeds NorCal. Again, this is going to be US only. I apologize. I'm not sure if we're running a Canadian only. I know. I didn't get a email to the right person in time. Right. So I know. Magpie rule in effect. All right. So we are going with the Boneyard Seeds Space Fondue. Let me blow this up here. US only, you're going to win a pack of these, and it is Memorial Day that's till the end of the month. So yeah, Monday, mail will be open. I will be getting these out. Badass. I did not want to speak for you because you've been very awesome, and actually Hillbilly Herb has been the person who has been hooking up all of our Canadian winners, and he says, Chad, go for it today. So I think he heard your complaint, Marge. He's like, we cannot have this woman unhappy.
What about us poor Canadians?
Poor Canadians. Yes,
enjoying federal legalization.
I know. We're just mad because you guys can share through the mail system.
Yes,
I wish I could do that here.
It's really quite lovely.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so mad. It sucks when somebody wants to do something nice for you and you get nothing but dryer sheets. Right. It's like, don't even bother. Don't waste your time. I'm not interested. This sucks because frick, if I was at your house right now, this would just be amazeballs. Right. But no. All right, let me go ahead and I will share the screen real quick. So for this giveaway for the Space Fondue from Boneyard Seeds NorCal. Again, shout out to Mr. Toad on that one. In chat, just type Bite Me Podcast. Yes, Bite Me Podcast. Go ahead and type that into the chat. And this is USA only, but we will get to the Canadian contest soon. So again, this is for some seeds. And why don't I just run real quick our video of seed sponsors. Let's do that. Stoked. And again, big shout out and thank you to all of those people, because again, giving out seeds is getting people growing, and that's what we want to do. So getting people growing some good stuff, some fire. This is definitely, Mr. Toad. We're all familiar with the quality he does. The Boneyard Seeds NorCal Fire OG times the space cheese. I've grown out a few of his space cheese crosses myself. Freaking fantastic. Fire OG happens to be one of Wi-Fi OG. Whitefire OG happens to be one of my favorite. So I did hold back a pack of these for myself. So I'm just going to say that right now. I held a pack back, but I share the rest with everybody else. So bite my Tide Pod. No, that's not Claude. No Tide Pod challenges here.
That's right. We keep it chemical free.
Yes. James has it right. It's the Bite Me podcast. That's what we're going. Thank you, James. Need the seeds. Yes. Good luck. Good luck to you. And yeah, everybody just go ahead and type that into chat. You can enter once. You can enter as many times as you want. The cool computer will only count you once. So that's there. I'm just going to leave that sitting out. I've got some special seeds.
There's Bubble Hawk there too, talking about your professionalism. And
my man Bubble Hawk.
Yes. Also, one of my favorite fuck around and find out edibles eaters.
How professional is this little
Yeah.
sponsored cutscene and all? Yes, I fully expect drop bears and nope ropes on your intro.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Bubble Hawk is an awesome person. Another member of the High on Homegrown cast who is also doing his own podcasts, which you guys should check out. You can find his information through the High on Homegrown, or just hit me up. I'll send it to you. But yeah, Bubble Hawk is from a land down under. He taught me some of the slang, and when I met people while on my trip, I'm like, "You're from there? All right, let me try this word on you."
Yeah.
They
Do
just
you
kinda
understand
smile.
it?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm not sure about everybody over there. You guys might have me say some funny things in a different
Right.
language.
Yeah, that's very true. I saw Mackie on there too. I don't know if he's still in the chat or not, but
Oh, that's great.
yeah. Yeah.
Good
Half the
crew.
gang's here. So
Yes.
that's wonderful. Yeah, because I'm not going to be on the show tomorrow, actually, unfortunately. I know. For those of you who are going to miss me, it's Mother's Day.
Yes.
And, I'm getting spoiled. It's kind of nice. And I never say no to kids taking me out for dinner and stuff. So, yeah.
Not at all. That's fun. I tell my mom I love you every day of the year, but tomorrow you get flowers.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Call
So
your
don't forget,
mom.
anybody in the chat who's just like, I forgot it was Mother's Day tomorrow. You're welcome, first of all. But don't forget, make that reservation now or go buy those flowers before you forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if Brian is right, happy belated birthday to 420.trees as well. Always love to see the birthdays in there. I'm guessing you're 29. You're a young one. No, I'm just joking. But happy belated birthday to you. And yes, Mackie is in here. Yes, loving the show.
Oh, I saw him in there. Yeah.
Good to see you, Mackie. And yep, what time is the shows typically on Sunday for High on Homegrown?
For me, it's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 1 p.m. on the West Coast over here. And how about Bite Me podcast? Is that frequently same time, same day every week?
I don't record mine live. I don't do anything live. So all my interviews are pre-recorded. I have like a production schedule, which I just like to say because it makes it sound like I'm way more professional than I actually am. But episodes do come out every Thursday. They usually go out 7 a.m. and then get dispersed from there. I don't know how long it takes, but they're on your favorite podcast player. So you can find it. Spotify, Apple, whatever podcast player you're using.
Yeah. It's crazy that, with like Dope History too, we're like, just find me on your favorite podcast platform. It seems so generic, but really whatever platform you're on, you're
Yeah. And there's a ton of them out there. Like there's a ton of them out there. So yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let me see how many people have entered so far. We're at 56. Maybe let's get up to 60 here, and then I'll hit the button. And then I want to keep rolling because it's a good conversation here.
Yeah.
Always enjoy the conversations, and I learn, a lot each time. I'm excited to hear more about edibles as well, and we'll get into the garden here shortly. But you mentioned earlier time commitment was one of the reasons why you didn't want to continue with the large grow that you had. What sort of time commitment are you able to give it these days, and what can people expect as far as like sized garden with that time? Like what's the reason?
For microgrow, it's pretty minimal. Is that what you're asking?
Yep.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty minimal, especially when you're doing soil versus cocoa, I find. But that could also be because the cocoa is, it's a bigger learning curve. But when I had the soil grow, I mean, I'm checking on them every day. You got to water them and stuff. But beyond that, talking to them nicely and all that kind of thing, the time commitment was super minimal because I only had a couple myself, usually like maybe a few at a time, depending. But so if you're looking for an actual number, which maybe you are,
like an hour a day, 20 minutes a day,
like 10 minutes a day, maybe.
Okay.
And
you're able to keep them happy, watered, healthy. Yeah. They look good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Maybe a little longer with the cocoa because I'm having to fuck around with nutrients and all that kind of thing. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. But the soil grow I found very minimal. And so it was really easy to fit into my life.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. And, especially, if there's mothers out there who are doing this as well, your dance card's already full.
Right.
So yes, having, something that you can accomplish in 10 minutes, 15
Right.
minutes per day is great. That
Right.
sounds like a good, reasonable size because you're able to, and I'm sure if something pops up, maybe you need to do defoliation one day. So you're in there for 30 minutes,
Right.
but that's not every day.
Right. Yeah. Because most of the time, like the microgrow is a fairly new thing for me over the last couple of years, probably couple of years, maybe, because I was focusing more on the outdoor grow. Like it was every summer, you have the opportunity to grow something outside when the Canadian weather is decent. And then I was like, I should, try some of this stuff. Because Temple Grower, who was in the chat, I think he had to go. Monkey, also from High and Homegrown, grows these amazing, like my beer can micro grows and stuff. They're just amazing. I was just like, that's what I want to do. And yeah, I haven't quite done that yet. And he's just like, it's the cocoa. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to try the cocoa, because he's like, although Temple Grower does his in soil too. So
he does a lot of the living soil stuff. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And I'm laughing. I was laughing when you mentioned Monkey Dew growing good stuff, because he does grow good stuff. And he was growing the Nakatomi Plaza for me, and they turned out great. And he sent me some pictures, and I'm like, damn, man, can I post this on my IG? He's like, well, yeah. I post them on my IG. They're the most liked picture on my entire page. Like, not even mine. You're like Monkey do grow it, but I'll still take it. But I laugh because I'm like, that's kind of funny, man. It's like the best post on my entire page is not mine. Whatever.
Well, that's okay. You're highlighting other great growers out there, and he does grow some beautiful micros, and like other ones obviously too, but the micros, I was just like, I have micro grow envy, which sounds kind of weird, but
again, I like the smaller plants. I get more of them in the same space. I can turn them over quicker, which means I get more harvest per year. And then when I do identify that one I was just like, whoa, you're the best, I can put it in the other tent and let it veg for 2 months. So micro grows are a great way of doing it, especially for people who I think are searching for that medicinal strain or, that keeper, because you got to go through them. So I'm going to pull this back up here real quick. We're going to do the giveaway. Ooh, big. Okay. So Bite Me Podcast, everybody, you got about 30 seconds to get this in. Again, this is USA only, and it was for the Boneyard Seeds NorCal Space Fondue. I feel like doing that in a Space Ghost voice. But yes, Fire OG times Space Cheese. So let me go ahead, flip screens over here. Good luck, everybody. Again, US only. I'm going to hit draw, and we'll see who wins there. And not sure. Congratulations, not sure. Are you sure that you want these? Let me know in chat. I'm just going to write your name down here because I'm pretty sure you're going to say yes. Space Fondue. That's what we're sending out. Space Fondue. Now I'm going to say it that way the entire time. Okay. Oh, cool. He's in chat already. Yes, he says. He says, yes, hook it up. Cool, man. Just go ahead and DM me your information, and I will make sure to get those out. And I already know you know where to find me, so we've had some good back and forth already. So yes. And he made a rad meme too. And damn, I can't load pictures. I still am using the free StreamYard. I said I was going to buy it when I get back from Amsterdam because I don't have full functionality. He made a cool meme with my TPTPT that I was just going to pop up, but I can't load it into StreamYard.
StreamYard, I don't blame you because I find that when you're doing podcasts and shows like this, there's so many things you can pay for.
Yes.
So many things that you can end up paying for. And I feel like I'm paying for a ton of shit already. So sometimes you're like, do I really need it?
Do I really need it? Yeah. Yeah. Hope that is one that I will get those, because I do like to be able to add pictures up. Now I can add videos, which is weird. I figured they'd let you add video or pictures and not video, but it's all besides the point. Yeah. Congratulations, Cupcape. Yes. Congratulations, not sure, from the Scump Ape. Makes my weekend. Well, that's good to hear. It's freaking awesome, man. Stoked to get you growing. Parker's supporting you there too. So we're kind of getting towards the tail ends of the show. We definitely have got another giveaway to do and a little bit more conversation. But also, the gardens are something that we always like to show and just kind of talk about, the workflow. Sometimes we knock it out of the park. Sometimes it's a learning process. And that's the fun part and why we do this show. Like your garden is great. I've seen them in the past and you're working on one right now. And I just want to say this in general for everybody like listening and who may want to be a guest or come on the show. I honestly am not looking for perfect gardens. Like I want people to come on who are like, okay, this is what I'm seeing here. This is what I'm trying to do. And that might resolve it. Or somebody who's like, this is recovering and this is what that's done. So just putting that out there for everybody growing. Realistic expectations are so important. We build ourselves up off of what we see on Instagram, which you can't taste, you can't smell, you can't feel the effects of. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because my garden right now, I'll put a video out here shortly, but it's doing a little bit of recovering, not as bad as when I've gone on vacations in the past, which the video's out there for that. So I'm stoked this time, but yeah, let's go through a little bit. I'm rambling here because I think it's important everybody have realistic expectations. But I wanted to look into your garden today. That's why we're here. We want to see how does Marge do it? What does this micro grow look like? What can I see? Like, oh, she's got that. Okay. So maybe.
Right.
Can you take us into the garden or tell us a little bit about your garden?
It's like right behind me. So
right on. You don't have to go far.
And let's see if I can. There's the closet.
Ooh, it's got the light. It's got that poltergeist light coming from it.
I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, no, totally. I see buds back there. I see buds growing up.
Well, it's so tall. Like a micro grow is usually pretty small. Okay. So I have a spider farmer light. Usually if I have a micro grow, like that light would be good for a couple of micro grows. Okay. This one's stretched up a lot. I don't know if I was like overfeeding it. Maybe during the veg period and it got too tall, but it is what it is. So it's flowering right now. It's probably getting close to the end. That jar there I put in so that it sort of gets a little bit of water throughout the day. And then I give it a big watering in the morning, usually.
Is it kind of like bottom feeding initially, the water, or?
I feed it from the top.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the pot lid, which is what the pot is actually sitting in, that collects the runoff. Okay. And then I take the plant out and pour it into the other glass jar that's sitting back there so that I can because I have to take it downstairs to where I keep my trimeter and all my nutrients and stuff because it is a super small setup. Yeah. Which is partly what makes it a bit of a pain in the ass. And if I was to do it again, which I think I'll try again next winter, I would probably try and find a way to make that simpler than what I'm doing right now. But yeah.
Could it be something as simple as like getting like a pegboard or something to hang in the closet where you can hang the tools? Or
yeah, that could be actually. Yeah, and I've done that before. Like we had pegboards before, so that is something I just haven't really.
Right.
Doing that
yet. And there's probably multiple ways too that you could approach this. My one question that immediately comes to mind for me, because I started growing in a closet as well. Like this was literally before freaking grow tents. Right. So like I grew in a closet and I had a hard time with airflow. Like how do I get rid of the heat? Like what are you doing in there to manage heat or bring in fresh air?
Well, usually my windows are open and I get like a definite breeze that comes in. Like I have to keep them shut right now. And it's actually getting a little warm in here because the windows are all shut. But right now it's perfect because if I have the windows open, it gets a lot of airflow. And I usually leave the door open during the day when the light's on. And then I close everything up at night kind of thing. And that seems to work pretty good, especially because the plants are normally not that. I mean, I know that's on the grand scheme of things, not big, but like a micro is usually smaller than that. Mm-hmm. So they're usually, I don't find that hasn't really been an issue.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And it depends on the region and the climate too, where you're at. You're near Toronto, so maybe it doesn't get 90 degrees, outside in the day, and then at the house it's hot, but
Well, if
leaving
it
the
does
door
get
open is
hot,
good.
we do we have air conditioning. So, because that's what my partner does for a living. So of course we have air conditioning. He's a heating and air HVAC guy. But so if it gets really humid, then we have the air on in the house, which is just enough to take the humidity out, because I really don't like having the house too cold. I hate it in the summer when you come in, it's so cold you have to put on a sweater in July. I think that's ridiculous, but it takes all the humidity out. So that does help a lot too when it gets really hot. But again, I'm not really focusing on indoor microgrows in the summertime either. That's when I'm usually outside in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a good point too. I know some people in Southern California that don't grow during the summer. They're like, can't manage the heat. There's nothing I could do about it, no matter how many dollars in air conditioning I throw at it. Like, I'm just not growing during the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Or doing the outdoors.
One of the only other things I would change is I have a timer, and for what I don't know where we got this timer from. I think it's just really old, and it's so fucking noisy. I don't know. I feel like when it's really quiet in here, you just hear it going tick, 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 tick. And it's like, is there a bomb going to go off? Or I just always hear it. I can hear it now in the back. And yeah, so I should maybe buy a more updated timer, but I haven't gotten around to doing that yet either. Cause I think what I would like to do is just get another light too. Cause I noticed you had the Spider Farmer, coupon code, I think, at the beginning. Yep. And that's a Spider Farmer light, and I really like it. I had to buy it actually not that long ago when my light sort of conked out mid-grow, and I had to MacGyver stuff, and I'm sure that was my best grow either, but under the circumstances, it did all right. But so the Spider Farmer light's been pretty great. It got delivered quickly. It was a good price. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, and that's, I have like 4 of the SF1000s, just they're like the 100-watt board, works perfect in like closets and small situations. And then I like modular too. So, going from like a 2x2 to the 2x4, okay, well, I add another one in.
Yeah.
So
that's
modular approach.
Too. Yeah. You can sort of build on them. Yeah.
Yep. Now, how many plants do you typically will put in your micro grow in the closet there? Is it 4 or 1? I think the American one here was asking, let's see, he said, why not 4 plants instead of 1?
Well, the light's so small, and when they're that size, it's kind of taking up all the usable light space. I think if it was a more proper micro grow, I would probably do 2 or 3. If I had more lights, I would probably add to that. I mean, legally I can grow 4, but when they're micros, maybe we can do a couple.
Right.
Don't quote me on that.
I know. Some people who do micro grows, they might actually put 2 or 3 plants in like a 7-gallon container, and just, oh my gosh, it's 1 plant in 1 container.
Right. Oh, that's a good idea.
So that allegedly that happens sometimes.
Right. Yeah. But usually I'm just doing like 2 or 3 if they're like a regular size, as opposed to this lanky little lady.
Now, do you have a favorite profile? Like, is there a terpene or flavor profile that you're like, this is what I want to grow? Or do you just take it all as it comes?
I often just take it all as it comes, because I've gotten seeds from all kinds of different places, but I do like citrus and gas. Those are definitely 2 profiles that I really like. And I know they're probably a little more uplifting. The gas, I think, was uplifting without being too cerebral, because sometimes I think some of the cerebral stuff is what makes you like a little too paranoid. But yeah, I definitely love the uplifting, citrusy, gassy stuff. Yeah. And skunk. I like skunky stuff too. Yeah.
Good.
And fruit's all right. And
yeah, I was gonna say, you're like, I like it all. That's awesome.
Well, I know some people, like, I think Temple Grower again is one that really likes some of those like pissy smelling ones, or the ones that are like really gross. And I would try growing it or something, but those aren't the ones that resonate with me. But
right. And when it comes to cooking with the cannabis, do you separate, like, well, this is my indica strain and this is my sativa strain, or do they all get combined? And if you do separate them, do you notice a difference, or after decarb, is there really a difference?
Yeah, I personally find I've had some people tell me different things, but personally, I find that by the time you decarb, a lot of those like volatile terpenes have been kind of, off into the ether. So I don't find that it makes as much of a difference as people would think, because you're decarbing it and then you're infusing it in something and then you're cooking it. Like I feel like you lose a lot of those terpenes.
Right.
I have spoken with people who will like keep a lid on in a jar to try and like preserve some of the terpenes. Or you can try raw flower infusions. But if you're doing that, then you're not really getting the same psychoactive effects. And it's something I haven't really experimented with too much yet, but I want to try just because it sounds interesting to me. Because I talked to a lot of like culinary cannabis experts who are like doing infused dinners and like all these fancy things. And they're trying to pair like terpenes with the food that they're preparing for a meal or something. But most of the time I'm like, making a chocolate coffee cake, or I'm infusing hot sauce or whatever. So
you just infused hot sauce.
Yes. Yeah. Or barbecue sauce. I've done it all, but I find that by the time you get to that point, it doesn't really matter as much. And I'm also sometimes using because I do use a dry herb vaporizer, I use a lot of the already vaped bud as well, because I keep that. It's already decarbed for you during the process of its vaporization. So at that point, it's like a jar of mystery weed too. So I can't really separate it. But I have jars of stuff that's like by strain. I just haven't really experimented too much. But yeah, I guess that was a really long answer to say that I don't know that I find that it makes a huge difference.
That was a perfect answer. Actually, you touched on a few things that were really important too, and it's kind of funny because my wife does the vaporizer as well, and she winds up with this big jar of just all mystery weed.
Yeah.
But that's what we use, and we actually have a chef friend who we give that to, who makes edibles for us, and returns it with a pan of brownies or whatever.
Yeah.
But do you think it's almost as effective as just like fresh flower, or maybe is it because you have such a good quantity you can make it as strong as something, because you're getting high off of it once,
right,
but it still has that other use, and I have no complaints from the edibles that he makes with that stuff.
Right. No, I think it's the same in the end, really. Like whether you take that dried flower and decarb it in your oven, or an ardent FX, or in a sous vide method or whatever, versus using your already vaped bud, it's the same.
Yeah,
the same pretty much.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
Dried weed, and you can do that. And to be clear, also, most of the time, if I am taking flour to make edible, I'm not taking flour to make edibles. I'm taking the trim and the sugar leaf and that kind of thing, unless it's like a grower. I'm just like, yeah, this is shit. And then I might use the bud, but most of the time I'm not using bud. I'm using popcorn buds and trim and all that kind of thing.
Right.
So I think in the end, whether you're decarbing your own plant material or using it from your vaporizer, it all works. It all gets you high, just like you said. And if you have a chef friend that you can give it to, he's probably very happy to take that stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. The difference is if you use an Ardent FX, maybe you're going to activate it and it's going to be a little bit stronger and stuff. But I mean, I think sometimes at the end of the day, you're splitting hairs.
Right. No, good answer too.
Yeah.
You could be arguing over this much of a
like maybe it's a little more potent and it's activated more of the cannabis, but are you going to notice a difference when you're sitting on your couch high as fuck? Probably not.
Good point. James agrees. Says completely agree, Marge. Cheers. Yes.
Yeah. Which is just another way to say, like, if you have a dry herb vaporizer and you use one, it's a great way to make your cannabis go a little further. Yeah. And if you are growing or whatever the case might be, you don't have to go out and buy like an Ardent FX or an infusion device or anything like that. You can definitely do it without all the fancy equipment. The fancy equipment's fun, but not necessary.
Good to know, because people sometimes get lost in that gotta have mentality.
Right. Yeah.
So now one thing that I want to ask is, it's the $1 million question. We talked about it kind of briefly earlier, but are there any secrets to disguise the weed taste in our edibles? Because even today,
Mm-hmm.
When I make edibles, I still taste the green.
So what's your process? Do you have a process?
Usually it's just taking some of that decarb stuff and I'll make butter with it. And
Okay.
then butter into cookies or whatever. But that butter, I mean, it comes out, it's green. I've got to skim like the bottom layer off of it after it's been
Right.
in the jar for a while. It's definitely got some chlorophyll. So is that maybe where I'm going wrong? Is the process of the butter?
It could be like how strong you're making it too.
Oh, the stronger the better.
Right. You're packing like a lot of weed into a little bit of butter, and
Yes.
I'm probably not making mine as strong as you are.
Okay.
But then you could also try and put it into something with a stronger flavor to help mask some of that taste. Like a cookie is great, but maybe a peanut butter cookie would mask it a bit more.
Okay.
I've also personally been I've made it a few times now, a chocolate coffee cake, which has been, it's so good. And I cut the cake. I got this recipe from a chef working out of Berlin, and he shared it with me on an episode that I did with him. So you can find that over on bitemepodcast.com. But he gave me this recipe, and then he suggested you can make this cake and cut it up into squares. And then I freeze little pieces. So I cut it up, and they're about 10 milligrams each. So I know I can have 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how I'm feeling and how high I need to get. But I keep them you can keep them in the freezer, and then I just take them out and eat them. But I feel like the chocolate and the coffee would probably help mask some of that. So if you have something with a stronger flavor, I've done ginger snap cookies as well.
Okay.
The ginger would help mask it. So yeah.
Good advice. Thank you. Yeah, because I'm not very creative in the kitchen with my edibles, but maybe it sounds like I need to branch out a little bit to things I already like, but just need to make an infuse.
You want it to be something that you're going to enjoy making and eating. So, and I've had lots of chefs tell me the same thing. I'm like, what's the secret to making the perfect whatever? And they're like, cook what you like. So, if you really like sweets, then stick to that. If you don't have a sweet tooth like me, then, there's so many savory things you can make as well.
Yeah. Okay. So what is, just off the top of my head, what is one of the weirder things that you've infused where people would be like, that broccoli's infused? What the?
Oh God, where do I even start? I've done close to 200 episodes by now.
Oh, geez.
So the first one that came to mind, and I don't know why, because this one is weird, is fire cider. I don't know if anybody knows what that is.
I don't even know what that is.
Well, let me tell you. And I liked it. Oftentimes also my sourdough starter is under this light too, because it likes the heat when it's a little cooler out. So
that's awesome.
I'm always fucking around with stuff. But fire cider is like this tonic that you make. It's basically, you take things like onion and garlic and cayenne pepper and ginger and like all this stuff, fresh thyme. You throw it in a big jar and you pour apple cider vinegar over it.
Oh my God.
Yes. And
my
then
stomach's like turning already, the acidity.
It's like a wellness tonic. And, if you're feeling sick, it's really great in the wintertime. You let it sit in that jar and you shake it every day for like upwards of 2 months or so. And then you strain it, you add a little honey, and I added a little infused honey. And then it's an even better wellness tonic, if you ask me. But so that was something that's probably a little bizarre, that not everybody's going to run out and make fire cider, but it is a really good wellness tonic if you want to like just make your face pucker like you've never had a pucker before, because you put in like lemon slices, like everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
it's like that hair of the dog. It's the hangover cure. Like drink that, just down it, just plug your nose, down it, call it good.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But so there is the option then to maybe infuse this into some beverages. That's one thing that I've not been familiar with. Like, how would I go about getting this into a beverage?
That's a really great question, because beverages are interesting in that they usually can hit you a little faster. Okay. And then oftentimes the high doesn't last as long, at least the commercial ones. I'm not really sure about the homemade ones, but the challenge there is you're often using like a fat-based infusion of some kind, and you want it to mix in nicely, or emulsify, if you will. I've done a few beverages. Some of them actually, I have the cookbook over there, but Warren Bobro's written a few books on beverages. He used to be like the cocktail whisperer. I think he's still
Okay.
He's written some books on cannabis cocktails. So I did a few of his recipes with his permission. He's been on my show too.
Oh,
So you
cool.
can find those. I did a really nice margarita before. And I think some of those you're using like infused honey as opposed to like a regular fat-based.
Okay.
Yes. And then also if you have access to dispensaries, some of them will sell like infused powders that you can put in almost anything and they'll dissolve. They're odorless and tasteless. So they say. I do find there's still that hint of that distillate hint that, you know, I'm not too crazy about, but it is an option as well for people who have access to that. And tinctures also work well for a lot of those too. So the alcohol-based tinctures.
Okay. And do you prefer alcohol over like the glycerin for tinctures?
Yeah, I've never really tried glycerin, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know why. Maybe it's just access. It's easier to infuse alcohol than it is. Although in Canada, you can't really get Everclear. So that's something kind of interesting. It's just you're not allowed to buy it without a proper license.
Just because the proof is too high?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've done like other types of alcohol, vodka and stuff like that. And I know a guy where I can get some. He likes to make a little moonshine. So sometimes
I was gonna say moonshiners.
Yeah. So he sometimes we do some trades, and I can get alcohol that way too. But yes,
nice. Yeah, that's I have done it with the glycerin as well. It didn't store as well. It kind of got a little bit more chunky. It didn't, in my opinion, capture the same strength as I could with the alcohol. And I'm a non-drinker, so I really need to like get that alcohol out of it. But I've been able to successfully do that with some tinctures using that method and make it palatable.
Yes. Yeah, because the alcohol-based tinctures are pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you're like trying to boil the alcohol off, you have to be careful with that too. Because I know I've done recipes where you're like boiling that off, either to make like a concentrate or an RSO, or just to like.
Don't do it indoors.
Well, I have a gas stove too, so no, there's no doing it indoors for me. Yeah. So you have to be pretty careful with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, shit. We blew up an oven on my last trip to Mexico, so not something I want to repeat again.
No, I guess not.
Holy crap. Yeah, no. Okay, well, cool, because that is something that I've not done personally. And usually if I do go to the store and I'll buy an edible because I have jury duty or got to go to the parents, whatever.
Right.
I usually go for the drink because they're at least in my state, edibles 10 milligram max, but you can put 10 of them in a bag. So I've got to eat half of that bag of candy before I get an effect. That's too much sugar. My stomach doesn't like it. But, you know, one of the bottles, because again, they count it as like a multiple dose serving. They get 100 milliliters in that whole bottle. So I'm like, perfect.
100 milligrams?
Or 100 milligrams, yeah.
See, your state's different than Canada because I'm sure you've heard in Canada, it's all 10 milligrams a package. So if I want the 20 milligrams to get me started, I have to buy 2 packages of something.
Oh, wow.
And the same with the drinks. They're 10 milligrams as well. Because that's the limit, which has been a big complaint about Canadian legalization. And one of the reasons why the legacy market is still thriving.
it is. And I've been following like InBev and a few of those, you know, big beverage companies that own like Corona and all this stuff, watching their follies in Canada with the beverage market. That's something that was slow to roll out and had a lot of like extra regulations on it and indecisiveness, it seems. And as you're pointing out, if you can only get 10 milliliters in that bottle, whether it's this big or this big, I can't drink 5 sodas to get the effect I need.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. And it's unfortunate really because the drinks did come out later. And then when they first came out, they've changed this now, thankfully. But when they first came out, they sold them by weight. You have a 30-gram limit of what you can buy in a legal dispensary. But for whatever reason, drinks, it was by weight. So you could buy 5 drinks and that would bring you up to like your 30 grand. It was a shit show. But they've changed that now. So you can buy, I don't know, 48 cans of something, but then that's going to cost you a small fortune as well. So make your own.
Yes. And so I'm gonna head to your website to learn more about that to make drinks, because that's something that I would love to do, especially with summer here. Some infused lemonade. How great would that be? And I like your tip of honey. That might be my route of how I get things.
Infused honey is great, and it's very versatile in a lot of things too, especially drinks. But yeah. And then I did have, like, if you go to the recipes page, they're all kind of grouped by category, but there's like medicated simple syrups that you might use for different things. And yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm realizing here that I still have a couple giveaways to do. So I'm going to do the Canada only.
Yes.
Canada only drawing. And this is from Hillbilly Herb. And I've got his stickers here somewhere because I just got an awesome package myself. And I think I've actually put it in with the other stuff already for the seed collector show. Anybody who watches the Future Cannabis Project knows that I like to do a show called the Seed Collector Show. And that's where every month I get together with other people that have collected seeds and just kind of show them off and tell the stories behind them. But yes, here's a nice, lovely package I'll be showing off next time from Senior Hillbilly Herbs. Oh,
very nice.
Focus. Yes. There we go. So pineapple gas, the grapefruit haze, stream lotus, the glare there. But no, I got some really good ones in here that I'll be going over on the Seed Collector Show. But I wanted to show you guys that because I was actually just looking for the stickers, but I like showing off seeds, so I'm sorry. It happens. All right. So for this draw, Canadians only from Hillbilly Herb, he is going to hook you up, and we are going with the phrase, I'm Canadian. So Canada only, please. We'll let those go for just a couple minutes, and then I'll hop into the Twin Peaks giveaway as well. But we'll wrap this one up. Can you tell us, or anything you like to tell us about the website? Maybe some of the things they should look for, or navigations, or what you have to offer there?
Yeah, sure. It's
down in the show notes, guys. Just click the link in the show notes.
Right down there. Wherever that is. I can't see it.
Down there. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button again. There we go.
Once again, it is bitemepodcast.com, and it has all my episodes on there. So you can always listen if you like listening from a website as opposed to a podcast player. The show notes are there too. There is the dosage calculator and the recipes that you can look at. I have a Marge Recommends page. So if you are looking for anything fun for making edibles, then there's, deals and links and all that kind of fun stuff. I have a course over there as well that I made that I have barely talked about, and I probably should, but I'm not always good about plugging myself, I guess. But it is more geared to like absolute beginners. So like people who've never made edibles before. So you can find that over there. But yeah, I think that's about it. I'm always working on it, and any feedback is always welcome. There's little links at the top there for some of the main podcast players. But yeah, the lemon matcha was a lovely latte that was pretty delicious. So
that's pretty. Now, did you do the foam? There? Are you a foam artist?
No, I'm not. Mine looked very different than that, but
but it tasted just as good, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was so good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So these are some of the articles, and you said you had some resources up here. You got recipes. There we go. There's your edible dosage calculator.
Yes.
Some of the other stories and courses. We've got your course here in the beginner's guide to making edibles. That is awesome because again, there's so much information out there that it's almost too much. I would rather go to a place of a person that I've followed, that I've seen do their thing, and be like, okay, you alone, give me the scoop. Right. I know you got it.
Yeah.
So cool. Beginner's Guide to Making Edibles. Right on. So yep, everybody check that out. Oh, there's the Ardent code, the Bite Me at checkout. Okay, that we were talking about there.
Things I actually use a T-check quite a bit myself. I don't really make any infusions now without it because I find that it just gives me some of that peace of mind. But I've had it for a long time. It is a pricey device. So unless you're like really into making edibles, it's a lot of money to put out. So make use of the free dosage calculator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, that's cool. Yeah, T-check. I could go on and have a whole bunch of different questions about that, but
Yes.
we'll save that maybe for another episode.
Well, if anybody's curious, I have done an episode with Parker from T-check called Know Your Dose, so you can look that up on the website as well. In fact, now that I've had close to 200 episodes, I've covered a lot of stuff. So if you have questions, just go over there and do a search. So
perfect. And we are getting ready to do the giveaway we've got 6 Canadians watching right now who are willing to type "I'm Canadian" in the chat. I'm just going to give it 30 seconds. You guys have some pretty good odds on scoring some awesome gear from Hillbilly Herb. So yeah, 1 in 6 odds. Get that going. Let me pop over here. Titration is key. Yes, just reading some of the comments. And also to everybody, since we are close to the end, if you had any questions for Marge, please definitely post those up in the chat, and I will try to get those up there for her. Let's see here. Let me work too many screens at once. Okay, there we are. You know, beauty of doing things live. All right, so let's go back to that screen of "I'm Canadian" 7. Okay, we had lucky number 7. Who is going to be the winner? Da, 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 da. You probably see your names like 5 times. You're like, it's me, it's me, it's me, it's me,
that makes it so exciting.
It's VPD Bush. Congratulations, VPD. You're growing bush these days because your name used to say growing boof. So I'm glad that you are moving up at our encouragement. He doesn't grow boof, but that was his name. And so we were all trying to be like, bro, you should give yourself a little more credit here. So at least he's up to growing bush right now. So one of these days we're going to get his name to Dank. VPD grows from Dank. All right, so I'm just writing this down. You won Hillbilly Herb. And we're going to save that So Home Living Soil contest for the next show when I'm a little more organized. But we've got our normal 4 seed giveaways. So the next episode is going to have more seeds, more contests. So do please be sure to tune in. I'm typing in a word that probably doesn't mean much to everybody else, but it was our favorite word of our trip to Amsterdam. So lekker is, according to Duolingo, which we do, means
is it like something to do like, I'm gonna guess here, tasty?
That's the word that was coming out of my mouth. Yeah. Tasty.
You know what's so funny about that? Are you doing Duolingo too?
Yes.
Because I'm learning German on Duolingo, and the German word for tasty is the same, except it's CK.
If you learn, if you learn Dutch or if you learn German, they're similar enough to where you can kind of like slide the two together.
Yeah.
Don't ever say that to a Dutch person, but that's kind of the truth.
Save that for my German friend.
That's hilarious. So lekker, yes, lekker is the word. If you are in the US, go ahead, type lekker in. This is going to be for a Westport grape juice times the Afghani #1 from myself, Twin Peaks Cannabis. And those are already packaged. I just need a name and an address to put on them. So if you're in the US, definitely type in lekker. Again, Twin Peaks Cannabis, the Westport grape juice female times the Afghani #1 male. And those are out being tested, getting used as we speak. So it's nice to already be getting feedback on that one. This one, I'm just going to continue to give away until they're gone. I'm never going to put it up for sale. I just want to get some seeds out there to people, and it's a fun one. So going to keep giving them away until they're gone. And I've got more in the tent right now that are pregnant. So that'll be fun. I'm going to have some fun testing later this summer, and I will be looking to all of you guys out there and girls in chat to help me test some pretty fun stuff.
So this is a pretty exclusive prize here, everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. There's only one place to get it, and it's watching the show. Lekker. So lekker, yes, tasty is what you meant. So we kind of had the impression that it was like, like good or I like. And we were out, and my wife, she's an amazing human being, love her to death. She is a compliment giver. She likes to just randomly try to make someone smile, and she always, will compliment something she likes. And she
Right.
was trying to explain to this lady that she liked her pants. And there was a language barrier. I don't think she was Dutch either, but a little language barrier. And my wife goes, lekker. And she smiles. She's all, lekker pants. And then we just kind of like smile, giggle, and we went away. And then we talked to one of our friends, and they're like, lekker means tasty. And we're like, so we just told this lady she had tasty pants?
That's great.
And so that turned into our word of the trip. Like anything that like popped up, we would be like, lekker. Oh,
That's awesome.
That's the little inside story behind it. But yes, US only, not sure. Oops. Yep.
How long have you been
James
learning
got it.
Dutch for?
My wife has been doing it for like 1 week over a year.
Oh, wow.
And she's pretty good. She is the more fluent of us too. I kind of pick up little phrases like things I need, like boterham. I like sandwiches. Boterham and Haas, cheese. So
Right.
I do that like one word communication.
Yeah. Enough to get across what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And if anybody who travels to the Netherlands, like if you go to Amsterdam, everyone speaks English. They actually wait for you to talk to hear which language you're going to use, and then they'll speak it. A lot of them will speak, French, English, Spanish, a lot of languages. It's actually a hard place to practice your Dutch, because if they find out you speak English, that's all they want to do is they want to speak English to practice their English.
Right.
But if you go outside of Amsterdam, like you get an hour or two away, particularly in the Friesland province is where we had the hardest time. Not everybody speaks English.
Right. And are they pretty forgiving? Like, are they like accommodating to your broken Dutch?
Yeah, they are. Most of the time it doesn't, it gets lost on them because I think Duolingo is misleading us a little bit. Like,
Oh God, yeah.
like Guten Morgen is how it's telling us to say good morning, but they say good morning. Like they leave out the Guten, it's good. So good morning, good morgen. So,
and I've been using Duolingo too, and sometimes I feel like it could also be dialects. Like I'm learning German, and my German friend was just like, we kind of say this word this way, but she's from Berlin. Maybe they say it differently in other parts of Germany too, right? So,
and the
and
Dutch,
you don't really get those nuances in the app because they have to have it for all Dutch or all German or all whatever language you're learning.
And the Dutch, they definitely do have up north in the Friesland province. They have kind of their own dialect, like their own Dutch language. So yeah, there is a bit of a division, and it's funny telling somebody when you're not in the Friesland province that you came from the Friesland province. They're like, that's something else. So yeah,
that's interesting.
I know. All right, let me check in and see how many people we've got here. We got 55. Maybe we could bump that up to 60. I don't know if there's 5 people in chat who haven't typed lekker in yet, but I'll give you another minute or two.
K-K-E-R. Do it.
Yes, lekker. I'm going to type lekker in just to see if I can win my own contest again, which I have before, and that gets embarrassing. But I'm competitive, so I just entered my own contest.
If you guys don't want Chad to win, you better put it in.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Marge. I need you there.
Yeah.
Antoine. All right. Thanks, Antoine. Adding to it. Let's see here. I guess while we're waiting for a couple more people to do that, any future plans for the garden or maybe for the show? What do you have coming up here? What can people expect?
I actually, for the garden, again, I'm actually pretty excited about the outdoor grow this year. I'm not sure why. I'm trying to remember if it was last summer or the summer before. It was the weather just wasn't that great. So, and then I had some go to seed and all that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. And then for the show, I'm just always really focused on trying to find cool guests to bring on. I just had a chef. I interviewed a chef on Friday, actually, and that was really exciting. she was amazing, and it was a really great conversation. So I'm looking forward to releasing that. And she has shared some recipes with me, because a lot of the times when I bring guests on, they are culinary cannabis experts. And so I like to ask them for recipes, because I'm not a professional chef by any means. I'm a home cook. I like to cook, but I'm just like you or anybody else in the chat. I like to cook, but I'm no professional. So when I have people on and like they do this for a living, I'm like, share your recipes with me. I'll share them with my audience. I'm going to try them in my own home kitchen, but it's kind of fun to get them from people who really know what they're doing. And it's also interesting to see like how they do their process or what kind of things they're interested in. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And it's also just, spring in Canada and life is grand. So,
you know what? I drove down to Astoria. Well, so I drove about 2 hours the other day from my home, and yeah, everything is blooming. Everything is green. It is a freaking magical time right now. So
Yeah.
I love it.
And as much as sometimes I'm like, Canadian winters can be cold and dark and everyone's just like, and everything. It really does give you this spring fever that people talk about. Like suddenly your neighbors are out talking to each other and they're like walking their dogs. And it's just like, God, I haven't seen you in 6 months, but it's just, yeah, it's just.
I got out on my skateboard the other day. That's how spring fever I am. I'm like, you know what?
Right.
I'm taking it to the park next door and just rolling down the sidewalk for a while.
Yeah. And for me, I get out on my bicycle. Like I really like to ride around on my bike for transportation in the summertime as much as I can, just because it's so nice. And I got to soak it up while I can.
Yep. Well, good. Be outside, garden outside, do activities outside. Yes. Don't forget your sunscreen. But yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's, all right. I'm going to pull this up here one more time. 62 entries. Again, this USA only for the Twin Peaks. Westport's grape juice times Afghani #1. I should really come up with a name for it because that's a mouthful. But all right, here we go. Good luck, everybody. And I'll just ask you to send me a DM with your shipping address. James.
Woo, James.
Congratulations, James. Just let us know in chat real quick if you are here, if you are US, and I am on Instagram. My links for Instagram and website are all down in the show notes. Same goes for Marge. Definitely hit her up on Instagram, the website, and I put the link tree there as well, so you can find some extra links. So James, I am writing this down. This is the Twin Peaks Seeds. All right, so yeah, please hit me up. I'm Brad, not sure. BPD grows. And James, congratulations. You all won some beans today. And that's not the end of it. So, yeah, next show, we're going to be doing these every 2 weeks, kind of as I set out before I took the vacation. So every 2 weeks, we'll be back in another 2 weeks. We're going to be giving away beans. I'm going to have that So Hum Living Soil t-shirt contest figured out, and actually probably some other fun things too. But it's about the education, and I appreciate you guys showing up. Marge, I appreciate you coming to share your knowledge and your experience today.
Yeah, it's always fun. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. And again, this is something that we'll have to do again. I love being on shows with you, whether it's my show, whether it's with your show, whether it's the High on Homegrown. My show
too, so you can find that over on Bite Me Podcast too. Yeah.
Yes. To do that, and no, not sure. I didn't win. I feel dejected. Damn.
Next time.
Next time I'm gonna get these.
Yeah.
I'm gonna win them. Shoot. Well, I guess everybody, until next time, just stay tuned. 2 weeks I'll be back with another live show here, Future Cannabis Project. I've got a few things coming on. Tomorrow, Cannabis Legal News at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be on Cannabis Legal News with Tom and Miggy. My God. I'm choked up. It was such a great thing. But no, we'll be talking a little bit of Amsterdam and just cannabis legal news. So any last shout outs? Anything you'd like to say, Marge, before we end it?
I don't think so. This was a great time. I appreciate everybody showing up on a beautiful day. I'm assuming it's beautiful wherever you are out there on a beautiful day to listen to us talk. And it's always a pleasure. It's always so great to talk with you. So I've really enjoyed myself.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And Hills Grows, you just nailed it, buddy. 9 out of 10 gum chewers approve this show. So, all right, guys, until the next one, we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Peace out. Thanks for joining.